all other participants should join with us. A very warm welcome to all of you to this webinar organized by CSI Student Branch CGU. We have already organized many of the webinars in the pandemic situations in 2020, 2019. Also, we have organized many webinars and workshops, different type of competitions. Again, in addition to this, we are again organized this webinar, which is completely with a very emerging technology that is Android. So with this, I welcome our chief guest, Mukesh Kumar sir. And yes, speaker has also joined, Subhasis Das Mahapatra sir, all the HODs, especially Sukant Kishore Vishoi sir, HOD CSC, and Dr. Madhushmita Shahu madam, Department of Computer Science and Information Technology. So I welcome all of you to this webinar. And with this, I will like to request Sri Mukesh sir, who has also associated with CSI and is currently a general manager, IC controller in a steel plant, Tata Steel, Bokaro Tata Steel. So Mukesh sir, sir, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Yes, kindly share some your experience with us, as you are having more the industrial experience with you. So kindly share some experience with us about the industry, about the CSI, whatever you want to share. And we are really happy, sir, you joined this webinar with us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Good afternoon, sir. Dr. Sukant Pisoi, Computer Science HOD, sir. Welcome,
you,
sir.
Thank you, Mr. sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Transfers it to the ATM company, and then you get your cash.
Respected HOD Computer Science and Engineering, Dr. Sukant Kumar Bisoi, and HOD Computer Science and Information Technology, Dr. Madhumita Sahu, and the learned speaker, Mr. Subhasis Das Mahapatra, who is Technical Coordinator, Google COE, Google Connect, and Anjana, Ms. Anjana, Coordinator, CSI Student Branch. It's my proud privilege to be here, to be present in this webinar, and I congratulate all of you, all the personnel who have been involved in this webinar, conducting this webinar. I also congratulate the Department of Computer Science and Computer Science and Information Technology of C.V. Raman Global University for organizing such very informative seminars, which will go a long way for the students to plan their career in varied, varied fields. There are many current, faculties and fields where students can excel. It includes data analytics, machine learning, IoT, and many other things are there, supplying blockchain. But the one fascinating area, which of course is very much in demand right now, is Android application. As you all know, that Android was developed by Google in the year, the first release was developed in the year 2011 itself. But it got stabilized, say 4 to 5 years back, and since then it has never looked back. And right now, Android is expected to command more than 80% of the market share on mobile platform, and the rest is shared by iOS and others. And you'll appreciate that unlike iOS, our learned speaker can definitely dwell upon that. Unlike iOS, Android is expected to be very flexible, reliable, and compatible with many devices. And Android apps can be written in many languages, which includes Java, which is our today's topic as well, and Kotlin, C++ language, and with the help of Android software development kit, which we call it SDK. And for this, should have the fair knowledge of software development, some amount of software development, and it's better that if they know C++ and they have got fair amount of experience in XML, then probably it is going to help them a lot. As far as opportunities are concerned, I think the developers, if you have got developers skill in Android and web development, I think you'll have overall highest demand right now in the area of in this area in the field of computer science. If you once the students pass out from taking the BTech degree or MTech degree, but at the same time, the student should learn many other languages and should have their own preference depending upon their choices. It should not be thrust upon them, and whatever you may like, the area where you can excel, that is your choice is very important. Your software choice is very important. So without taking much of time here now, since we have a very good speaker with us, I again congratulate Anjana so that she has organized earlier webinar also and this webinar, and I also congratulate the both HODs today who are present here, and I expect that I welcome all students. I think many have joined. How many people have joined, Anjana, so far?
Yes.
You're
Yes,
mute,
yes.
on mute.
So far it is 66 has joined, but the registration is about 260 student plus research scholar and faculty. So maybe
Okay.
they
So
will
66
join in a
itself.
meanwhile.
Yeah. 66 itself is a very good presence, and I expect it to cross 100. And so, without taking much of time, I will hand over the session to Anjana, and followed by the learned speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. You have always encouraged us to organize this kind of webinar. There is no delay from you, and whenever I talk to you about this, you just give us the permission to organize this kind of any workshop, webinar. Again, you give us some of the new things, new ideas about this. So thank you, Mukesh sir, for this. So without wasting our time, I like to welcome Subhasis Das Mahapatra sir, a very well-known person in CGU. There is no introduction needed, but I know that many of us, many participate are from the other universities and other colleges. So for them, sir has completed 8 years, more than 8 years experience in industrial, and after that he joined the academic about there is an experience of 4 years, and he has also goes through means completed and organized many courses about this Android. So definitely you will enjoy the session, learn the session, because here we are not giving a session like you just join and gain the certificate. No, there is a thing that which is now you need it. Students are also needed, some researchers are also needed, this Android idea, because whenever we are doing some research kind of things and again we are going for industrial, we need this Android part. So definitely all of us have this Android with Java. Definitely we are having some knowledge of Java, so we will learn very good things here. So Subhasis sir.
Thank you, Anjana ma'am, for the wonderful words, and our distinguished Chief Guest Mukesh sir, HOD CSE Bisoi sir, and HOD CSIT Madhushmita ma'am. Good afternoon. Very good afternoon to all the participants over here. Thank you for providing me this opportunity of conducting this webinar as a resource person. So without delaying much, let me start my presentation. So just Anjana ma'am, please confirm whether my screen is visible.
Yes, sir. It's
Okay.
yes, sir. Yes, it's visible.
So the topic for today's webinar is developing Android application using Java. So before delving or indulging into the development part, a few things about mobile application development we need to know. What was the progress when it started and all kind of things. So basically we are discussing here about mobile operating systems. Okay, so what is a mobile operating system? Basically we use desktop, we use laptops many times, but when a revolution happened on the telecommunication sector, when people used portable handset devices to communicate with each other. There was a need for smarter mobile handset devices which could enable users to not only communicate with each other but also uh, have a such system which could enable the user to explore and use the computing power in mobile devices such that users can do all the operations which the user could do on desktop systems or laptop systems on the handset itself. So the revolution started somewhere around um, way back somewhere around 1992 when the first mobile communicator or mobile communication system happened with smarter device. The initial device was named, I think, Simon. Okay, so it was a simple device, simple mobile device, simple communicator device, but with some sort of computing capabilities where user could log on different data. They can keep store various records, and gradually a few modifications, few upgradations, and then by revolution of mobile technology and different companies coming into the mobile handset sector, gradually the operating system became smarter along with the hardware devices that were available. So it started with the Symbian OS. Okay, it was a mobile operating system and a computing platform, of course, which was designed for smartphones. A few of us have in fact used the Symbian OS back then, back in I think 2006-7 era, when Nokia launched smartphone devices with Symbian OS inbuilt into it, which is of course discontinued since 2013 because of various factors like its development halted up to a certain extent because the computing power that could be utilized in Symbian was little bit lagging. So they have discontinued it. Then came BADA, which is developed by Samsung Electronics. They use C++ programming language in a mixed source model. That means some part of it is open source and some part of it is proprietary, which is of course again discontinued since 2013. Okay, BlackBerry was a very popular mobile operating system and brand. It was developed by a company named Research in Motion. They used C++ to create a proprietary mobile operating system which used a device with QWERTY or QUERTY keypad, which enabled users to use various functionalities like mails, like multimedia texting and all. Okay. Then gradual development started on other platforms like Windows. Microsoft has started researching on it. iOS launched its first smart device in 2007, which was, of course, a proprietary of Apple Inc. And they used programming languages like Swift, C, C++. Nowadays it is they are using Swift, but before that they were using Objective C programming language. Then the operating system itself was developed using C and C++ and assembly language. But gradual need arised for a open source system because the cost of these previous prior version mobile operating systems were a little bit higher for the low income group consumers, so they could not afford a smart mobile device. And again, there was a need for research because these platforms were proprietary. So the research somehow halted on these mobile platforms. So then came Android, which was initially developed by Android Inc., which was a startup company, and gradually Google took over it, and there was a alliance formed between different manufacturers of mobile devices, and like Samsung, Alcatel Lucent, HTC and all. So they formed an alliance that is known as Open Handset Alliance. They used this alliance to promote a mobile operating system which is open source and available to everyone for experimenting and further modifications and enhancements. Because of its open source nature, the cost factor also reduced. So the gradual user base has also increased a lot. Okay, so coming to Android operating system or Android mobile operating system, as I said, it is a mobile operating system. It is based on a Linux kernel, which was taken from Ubuntu 2.8 at the first initial stages. Nowadays, Ubuntu 3.1 and subsequent versions are used for its kernel. Okay, so core of an Android operating system is always a Linux kernel. Right now, around 2.5, more than 2.5 billion devices which are running worldwide or being in use worldwide, they are using Android as its mobile operating system. Okay. Now, as I said, it was developed by a consortium of developers known as the Open Handset Alliance. And it is actually commercially sponsored by Google. That means Google is providing all the financials, all the support to this Open Handset Alliance and Android development. So first commercial Android device was the HTC Dream, which was launched during September 2008. So this device on the right is actually the first Android device which was launched, which is known as HTC Dream. HTC company launched it. Okay, so it had some physical buttons below and a touch-based screen on top of it, and it provided facilities for not only communicating with each other but handling so many things. Like it had an inbuilt map. It has provided accessibility to network through 3G networks, so that users can use emailing, browsing, and all other functionalities in it. Now these are the initial developers of Android. Android Incorporated was actually formed by these four gentlemen here. First one is Andy Rubin. By his name, actually Android Inc. was named, or Android mobile named. They took the first name of Andy. Then the second person is Rick Miner. The third person is Nick Sears, and finally Chris White is the person. These four guys, they started working on a platform. Initially their idea was to create a smarter camera system. They started working on creating a smart camera or digital camera, but gradually as they researched on it, they incorporated so many things in it, and they formed the basic or the first Android device they created. Okay, so it was founded in Palo Alto, California in October 2003. Gradually, Android Inc. was incorporated with Google for further research and funding. And right now, what we see the Android device having running in so many different platforms. Okay, so basically, it is a complete touchscreen based operating system. That means all the functionalities, all the features you can access using touch-based interface. Now it is powering so many things, like initial days where when it was developed only for targeting to mobile phones or smarter mobile phones, but gradually tablet devices were created with larger screens. Then they have incorporated Android in television sets also. Okay, why to limit only to mobile and tablet devices? So they went a little further and they incorporated the Android operating system in a smart TV. So nowadays what we see, the smart TVs, this was original idea of Android. We see many versions, MI TV for example. So these are smart TVs which we use nowadays at our home, which is powered by Android. Now subsequently smartwatches came up, and the most popular smartwatches brands are now using Android platform. And subsequently the upcoming vehicles also, like cars, the modern cars that are available in the market right now, they use Android functionalities for their car's dashboard system. So dashboard became smarter with Android, which could now show you or you can view, navigate, you can use the calling functionality through the car dashboard. You can view all the parameters of your vehicle in the single device that is attached to your dashboard. You can play music, you can navigate using the Google Map. And there are so many features in it. And subsequently, the recent developments are going on the IoT sector. This is known as Android of Things. So in IoT sector also, they are implementing Android. Okay. So now one more advantage of Android is that there are so many applications in the Google Play Store, and truly so it facilitated, Google has facilitated this thing because of the openness of this operating system. So more and more development could be done, could be happened on this Android platform. And in fact, Google has provided the developers a facility to monetize their applications. So that also promoted a lot of developers coming into Android sector and developing Android applications. So right now, if we search through Android's Google official marketplace, that is Google Play Store, you'll find over 2 million Android applications, and many of them are easily monetizing, easily earning profits from their applications hosted in this Play Store. And another advantage of Android is that it is highly customizable for different devices. Okay, you can see because of this open source nature of Android operating system, it can be customized highly by different vendors. Okay, there are so many vendors, like Samsung is there, there is MI is there, there was Micromax, and so many brands, other brands. In fact, Nokia has also come up into Android sector. So they have also developed Android mobile phones. So this particular operating system can be customized as per the requirement, as per the development cycle wanted by a particular vendor. So it is fully customizable for different devices. That is another reason why it is very popular. Okay. Now coming to development part of Android, the official IDE or interactive development environment for Android is Android Studio, which is developed and maintained by Google. Google is providing this platform for developing Android Studio, which the screen on the right, which you see, is basically it is the screen which you see when you install Android Studio on for development purpose in your system. Okay, it facilitates 5 different tasks in a single software platform. That means you can develop Android applications, you can run your codes to test it, to find out the bugs, you can debug your application. Finally, when your application is ready, you can test it out in different configurations of devices, and finally you can package your app in order to upload it in the Play Store or Google Play Store for further distribution of your application. Now there are many tools available in this Android Studio, like monitors and performance tools. Monitors means whatever process is going on behind or in the when your application runs on a particular device. So there are so many processes going on. So monitors are such tools which can track what process is going on in the backend, and they can show you what processes are being executed, where there is some error and all. So monitors are used for those things. Performance tools, there are a few performance tools are also available which can help you to enhance the performance of your application. Like it can reduce your application's final output size. It can make your applications a bit faster. By using these performance enhancement tools, you can tweak your application such that it will run properly on any devices. Okay. Now another tool available, that is known as virtual devices. What is a virtual device? Basically in Android it is termed as an emulator because of the fact that it emulates the behavior of actual physical device on the computing platform, whether you are using laptop or desktop. Okay, so it is known as emulator. It replicates all the behaviors, all the characteristics of a smartphone virtually, so that you can test your application by running on this device, on this virtual device, and you can find out various bugs. You can test out your application and finalize your application for distribution. Then Android Studio also provides different type of project views. On this left part, you see these are the files that are created or used inside the Android application that you are developing. So all of them are categorically arranged and displayed properly, so that you can the developer can easily perform their tasks or their coding tasks. They can implement their logics easily. So these are arranged properly. There are a few different kind of views as per the user's necessity, as per the user's requirement or comfortability. The developer can choose a specific perspective view of the project files. Like right now, if I show you on this part, you can see it is written Android. So right now in this snapshot, actually the view is known as Android perspective view. So it is arranging all the files according to Android's component structure, and easily a developer can access all these files and edit them. Now Android Studio can be downloaded from this site, https://developer.android.com/studio. It is free of cost to use. Now, many operating systems are supported by this operating system. Many operating systems are supported by Android Studio. Like we can install it in Android. Sorry, we can install it in Windows. We can install it in Linux. We can install it in Mac. And in fact, nowadays, there is a version of this software package. We can install it in Chromebooks also. Chrome OS can be used. But the system requirements is a little bit higher for development of Android applications using Android Studio. So these are the basic system requirement for each of these operating system. Mostly we are using Windows. So if we consider Windows as our development platform, we can develop in Windows 7, 8 or 10, any version will do, but it should be 64-bit operating system. Apart from that, we need 8 GB of memory in our device. Otherwise, we cannot develop application properly. If we try to install Android Studio in lesser memory based systems, then what will happen during the development process, your system will be slowed down and ultimately your system may crash, because the Android Studio along with the emulator takes so much memory space that less or very few memory space is left for the host operating system to run on. So it is recommended that the system must have 8 GB of memory or more. And apart from that, to store all the files, you need at least 4 GB of disk space freely available for Android Studio, out of which 500 MB will be approximately 500 MB will be used by the IDE interactive development environment. 1.5 GB will be utilized for Android Studio and the emulator system image. And the screen resolution should be a little bit higher. It should be minimum 1280 into 800 screen resolution. This is for Windows system. Similarly, Mac also. For Mac configuration, the hardware requirement is the same, whereas the operating system is supported Mac OS X 10.10, which is Yosemite and higher, up to Mac OS Mojave. Then for Linux, we can use any GNOME-based or KDE-based tested on G-Linux-based Debian operating system. That means, in easier words or simpler words, we can use Ubuntu system for development of Android applications or installing Android Studio, which should be 64-bit distribution capable of running 32-bit applications. It should be 64-bit distribution, but it should have the feature that it can run on run 32-bit applications also. And apart from that, glibc is the minimum requirement in Linux-based environment. It should be 2.19 or later. If it is not there, then before installing Android Studio in Linux environment, we must install this GNU-C library. The rest of the things are same as for Windows, the same for Linux. For Chrome-based operating system or Chromebooks, we need 8 GB memory or more, which is recommended. 4 GB of available hard disk space is the minimum requirement, and the processor should be Intel i5 or higher. That is the system requirement for Android Studio. So keeping in mind of these system requirement, Android Studio must be installed. Otherwise, your system or the development system will hang or maybe crashed at a few points. Okay. And one more thing, during installation, your internet connection should be proper. That means you cannot disconnect in between during the installation steps, because once you start installing the IDE, the first step is it will install the necessary software of the IDE. Then subsequently it will download a few packages like SDK. It will download the system image of Android Android SDK, that is whichever is available latest, and a few other library files. So in total, while installing, it will download around 2 GB of data. So and throughout the process, your internet connectivity should be there on your system. Okay. Now talking about Android software development or Android software developer kit SDK, it has 5 basic components. When you download and install Android Studio, you will get 5 different components in this SDK package. The first one is the developer tools, which include the code editor, the debugger, and the monitors. Okay, as I said before, the monitors being whichever is monitoring the processes happening while your application is running on a device. So monitors, certain tools are available which are continuously monitoring on your test device. Then debugger will find out the different bugs in your application codes. So debugger is there. There is editor which will be used for writing the source code. Apart from this, the second one is that certain libraries available. A few libraries are available, like for example, for using map in your Android application, you need specific libraries related to maps. Then for developing applications which will be used by the wearable devices, a specific libraries related to those are necessary. And similarly, for a few other options, you need certain libraries which are embedded or inbuilt into this SDK when you download. And whenever you use certain functionality, you can directly implement or directly use that library in your code, and you can further develop your applications. Now, third point is, or third component inside in this SDK is virtual devices or emulators. As I said, emulator is nothing but the virtual replica of the actual device or actual hardware Android mobile device. So it is exact replica which will imitate all the behavior of an actual device, but it is a virtual platform. Then fourth one is documentation regarding each and every library component that is inbuilt into or embedded into this software development kit, which can be also found in this URL, that is developers.android.com. And this documentation also will be downloaded when you download a specific Android software development kit version. And the final component within this Android software development kit is some sample codes, which will implement a few functionality, which has few functionality. We can take a reference of these sample codes in order to implement these features in our application. We can take reference of these sample codes. In fact, we can use these sample codes to build upon or build on our own applications or our own application implementations. So these 5 components are there when you download the Android SDK or software developer kit at the installation time. And subsequently, we can also download other because each time the software development kit also gets updated each time an Android's new version comes or launched. So there is the option in Android Studio through which we can download individual SDK components for each of the version of Android available in the market. Okay. So coming to Android application. So what is an Android application, if you ask? So an Android application is consists of one or more interactive screens through which user interacts with your application. For example, if you take a popular application like WhatsApp, it has more than one UI screens. You interact with these screens in order to send message, receive message, maybe call, video call or audio call. So any of the application will have at least one UI or user interface, which will be interactive in nature so that user can give some input, and on the same screen user can get output also or view the response also. And completely this Android applications are written using Java programming language or Kotlin, and we use XML also. XML is used basically to for the resources part, or that means the design of the user interface is generally made using XML code. So that why you can ask why we use XML code, because XML is easier to handle, or XML or markup language is easier to maintain. So that's why XML is being used for the layout designs, for complex layout designs or the front end designs, and to in order to provide functionality or the events that performed by the user, to get those events, to act upon those events, we use Java programming language. Now, for development of Android application, we use Android SDK, which is a part of your Android Studio. Then, sorry. So we use Android libraries and Android application framework to develop our application further. Okay. Now, each application is executed by a virtual machine inside your Android device, that is known as Android Runtime Virtual Machine, which is in short is termed as ART, Android Runtime. Okay. Now, as I said, we can use Kotlin or Java to write our Android applications. We use SDK tools to compile our code into APK or Android package. Okay. So the SDK tool, actually what it does, it goes through a certain process, like it bundles all the files, all the resources inside our project. It converts your Java files into class files. Then subsequently these class files are converted into DEX files, and the Android SDK tools, after compilation process, packages everything into a simple single archive file, which is known as APK, which is the installation file or installer file for each application we are installing in our devices, maybe from Play Store, maybe shared by somebody else. So Android's final package that is being hosted or that is being distributed is known as APK. Okay. Now, just before I said Android applications are executed by ART system, Android runtime. So what is an ART? Let's understand that now. Now, each application that is installed on a Android platform or Android device, when it's executed or when it runs in its own security sandbox. That means two applications cannot interfere with each other's process. Okay, each one having their own boundary, own execution level. So each one lives in that boundary itself. Okay. Now, Android operating system basically is a multi-user Linux system. Now, user here are basically not the physical user or the common user, whoever is using Android device, but here we take or we consider each individual application as a user for this Linux based system, Linux based Android platform. Okay. So this operating system is considered as a multi-user Linux system where each of the application is a different user itself. Okay. Now, Android operating system assigns these applications, individual applications, and a unique Linux user ID, and the permissions required by these applications to access certain resources are set by the system. Okay. each process of these applications running on has its own virtual machine, which is known as which is the ART system or Android runtime system. Now, by default, every app runs on its own Linux process, so that they don't interfere with each other's processes, and they don't access the data. They don't access, or they don't put some arbitrary data to another application. In order to access data, or in order to communicate between two different applications, there is a process which goes through the Android operating system. So this way, the Android operating system provides security for each individual application inside the hardware device or Android device. Now let's just consider a few things, like what are the building blocks of an application. There are basically 4 different components. First one is resources, like different resources we use. We use XML for designing our front end part or our user interface. So these are known as layouts. We use images as the background of a particular screen, or maybe the background of a button, and so on. So these are also resources. Images can be of 2 types. They can be of XML design, or maybe they can be maintained through XML. Those are known as vector images, or they can be simple images, PNG format or JPEG format. Okay. Now we can store the constant values for our application. For example, the text labels, the buttons text, and the headings, the app name, the specific screen's name, identifiers, etc. These are known as string constants, which we can store in a XML file that is known as string.xml. This is also termed as a resource. We can store colors, constant value, hexadecimal constant value in a XML file and access it from our program or the layout files, and use it throughout our application's different interfaces. So colors stored as XML files. Then media files also are used in application development, such as MP3 files, or some other OGG files and all. So these media files, these XML files, these images, these layouts, all of them comprises resources. Then the next block is components. So generally those codes which are written using Java are known as components. That means we use components like activities, where activity is considered as each screen with which the user interacts. The code for which we write in Java is known as one activity. So there can be many activity in an application. So these activities are components. Then there are a few components which are known as services, which run in the backend or background. For example, if you are downloading something, or if you are uploading something and the file size is huge, still while uploading the file or while downloading the file, you can interact with your application, or you can do some other tasks. So basically the uploading and downloading are done in the backend or the background. So this is happening, or this is available to us because of the services we are using. Okay, services are also the Java classes. Then there are a few helper classes available. So these helper classes help us out to do a certain task, or to perform a certain task in the application. Okay, for example, for storing data, you need some functionality to store the data in the database. So the code written in Java language for performing such operations, which will help us to store data, to retrieve data, these codes are known as helper classes. And there are a few other helper classes also implemented while developing an Android application. So components are can be categorized as activities, services, and helper classes, which are basically the Java codes or Kotlin codes if you are developing using Kotlin. Then manifest is a file, Android manifest.xml, which stores all the information about the application which is handed over or given to the Android runtime while your application is executing. Okay, it has all the information regarding your application, like what are the different components in your application, what are the different permissions required or necessary for your application to run, what are the features or hardware features your application is accessing, and a lot more things. So manifest has all of these configuration information or the component information embedded in a simple XML file which is read by the Android runtime. Now the last block is the build configuration, whereas the build configuration are those files which are necessary during the build process of your app or while compiling your application and producing the final APK file. Okay, so these build files generally use the Gradle language. So we term them as Gradle config files. Here we mention the APK versions, different APK versions we are producing. We are using different libraries, so we mention those libraries in these build configuration files so that they can used or they can consumed in our application. Okay. Now the challenges, there are a few challenges in developing of Android applications, like as there are many vendors in Android development. So there are multiple screen sizes and resolutions for different Android devices. Performance, so you need to create the UI such that it will support multiple screen sizes and resolutions. Now coming to performance, also the performance of the application is really important, because if the performance is not up to the mark, or let's say your application is not responsive enough, the transitions are not smooth enough, the user will not use your application. So in order to succeed in distribution of your application, your app's performance should be responsive and smooth. And apart from that, next challenge is security. Security is a prime concern, because nowadays we are doing all the transactions, maybe financial, maybe personal. We keep our personal video records, we keep financial transactions, we keep notes, everything we are doing through the mobile device. So data must be kept secured inside the Android application. So that is one primary point which we must focus while developing an application. Then keeping the source code safe is another thing which is most important, because it might happen that somebody reverse engineers your application and put some malicious codes inside it and distribute the application in your name, so that they can hack on, or they can gather sensitive information from the users. So these kind of things happens a lot. So your source code is also an important thing apart from the user's data, which must be kept safe, maybe by using some encryption technique, double encryption technique. It must be kept safe. We have to think of something so that our application's security will be enhanced. Then next thing is compatibility, because day by day, each year around 3 to 4 Android versions are launched. Android stable versions are launched, because there are gradually improvements are done in this operating system or in this platform. So each time you get to see newer versions. So if you target a specific version, like let's say latest version of Android to develop your application, then the older platform versions, which are in fact used by maximum people or most of the people, they will lose the compatibility and they could not use your application. That way you will lose a specific or a huge base of users for your application. So compatibility, you must keep in mind that whenever you are configuring your Android application, you must keep it up to a certain limit so that maximum of the users will be covered, or maximum older platforms will be covered without compromising on features and performance of your application. So that is one necessary point. And finally, marketing is another aspect which we must take into consideration, like understanding the market and our users before developing an application is a primary concern, because without proper survey of your users and market, if you develop an application, the application will never succeed in distribution or being used by the users. Okay, so this much of the theory. I will take a 1-minute break. During that time, if any of the participants have any queries, I can quickly take up them. The next part of this today's seminar is today's webinar is a hands-on session, which I am going to show you. We will develop an Android application and run and see how the development process goes on using Java technology.
Any questions from the student side? Or any participants, you can ask if any doubts are there.
Okay, so I assume that there is no doubts. Whatever I tried to explain, everybody understood it properly. So I am going to share my entire screen so that I can show you the process of Android development, how we basically configure and how we use Android Studio. I have installed, in fact, pre-installed Android Studio. So you can get the Android Studio installation steps from the official Android Studio site. There is a help on the website, so you can use it. So after complete installation of your Android Studio, you get to see this kind of interface at the start. Okay, whenever you start your Android Studio for the first time, you will see something like this. So here there are some buttons. You can open an existing project. You can, in fact, get from your version control like GIT or something else. From there also you can get any project files, or you can open an existing project, or you can in fact import the project that were built using some other platform like Eclipse or some other projects. So for starting off Android application creation, or for creating a new project, you need to click on this create new project, which will show you a screen similar to this, which is basically nothing but different templates. Okay, you get to see various templates or pre-configured designs. Okay, there are a certain groups, like these are for Android phone and tablet. You can develop for and Wear OS like smart watches, so you can use these specific templates for that. If you want to develop an application for Android TV, you can choose this one. For automotive also, these two kind of layouts are available. So you can use this, or Android Things. That means for IoT implementations also you can use this Android Things. So let's go on and create a phone or tablet version. I am going to use the empty activity, which will give me the basic implementation of Android code. Okay, this template has only the basic implementation of Android code. Whereas if you choose some other template, then it has all the implementations of that specific template type. So you might get easily confused. So until you have expertise in Android, I recommend that you always use this empty activity template, so that it will be easier for you to understand. Anyways, okay. So next screen, you configure your project setup. Like, for example, you can give your application's name. Here it is my application. So let's create an application named as, let's say, demo. Okay, demo list. Let's say I am giving the name as demo app. Let's suppose demo app. The package name is here automatically taken as com.example.demo app. This you can change. In fact, during my presentation, I told you that each application runs on its own security sandbox environment, and each application is assigned a Linux user ID. That particular user ID is taken from this package name. So your application is basically uniquely identified by this package name. So that is the reason we use this package name exclusively for our development purpose. That means when you finally upload your application in the Play Store, it will try to identify if the same package name is available for any other app or not. If it is there, it will deny you to upload your application. Okay, so it must be unique. So in order to make this package name unique, what we do, we just reverse the company's domain name. For example, if my company name is CGU odisha.ac.in, I can just reverse it for this first two part, com.example. I can replace them as in.ac.cgu-odisha. Okay. Now you can do the reverse also. You can write cgu-odisha.ac.in.demo app. This also can be possible. You can, it is allowed, but it is recommended that you reverse the entire string so that it can be uniquely identified. How? Now, subsequently, whenever you are developing another application, you can give the same package name, the starting part as the same package name, so that your application will be listed under this domain in the Play Store. Okay. And whenever you are sharing some data between two of your applications, the Android operating system will also know from this first part that yes, this application is going to share data in between two or more applications. Okay. Now this is necessary. This package name is really important. So that's why it is always recommended that you reverse your company's domain name. Now, okay. Here is one thing, one error is showing that character hyphen is not allowed. So we can remove it. No issues. We cannot use any special character in the package name. We cannot use dollar or any special characters. Okay. So keep it in mind. Now save location is your project location wherever you are storing your project. Okay. You can change it by clicking this button, and you can browse to some other folder where you can save your data or save your project files. I am going to keep the path as I have previously fixed to this directory. So I am going to keep it. Otherwise, whenever you are creating for the first time, it will direct you to the users folder inside C drive. Okay, you can change it if you have less space in C drive or the Windows drive. Now language, here are two options available. You can use Kotlin or Java. For our purpose, we are going to use Java. Now, the minimum SDK, this is the target which we specify. Okay. If you go to the latest version, okay, let's suppose I am using the latest version, this 30 version, then you can see it is showing me your app will run on less than 1% of the devices. That means your market reach of your application when you launch will be less than 1%. So which we don't desire. That's why we specify a minimum SDK. Though we are building up on this latest version of Android, but will provide support up to this minimum SDK. That means it will be compatible with all these previous versions. Let's suppose we are choosing Marshmallow, then it will provide support. Our application will run approximately 84.9% of devices, which is pretty good. Let me just go a little bit further. So my application will now support 94.1% of the devices. Okay. In fact, you can click on this help me choose option, which will guide you through how you can choose appropriately a specific minimum APK version. Okay. Now this last option, this use legacy Android support libraries, is the option if you are using some obsolete library files in your application. Like for example, a few libraries were launched during when we were using Gingerbread, which are no longer being used. If you are going to use those libraries in the latest mobile application also, then you can choose this one. Otherwise, leave it blank. So that way you can have all the latest features in your Android application. Okay, now click on finish. Once you click on finish, it will build up. Okay, it's doing the process. You see, the system is a little bit lagging. Though I have 8 GB of memory, still it is responding a little bit slower because of this Android Studio. So that's why it is recommended that you must have at least 8 GB of memory in your system. Okay, so it is building up. It will take a few moments before it will complete the build process, and it will create all the necessary files that we require. Okay, on the left, this is the project structure or project view. On the right, this is the editor part where we do all our programming. Okay, on this, if you there are tabbed views. Okay, all of the files that are created, they will be displayed in tabs over here. They will be added as you go on further adding new files, newer classes. All of them will be added over here. So build process is still going on. So after once it is complete, we can see the complete structure of our application. And one more thing, whenever you are creating your project for the first time, see, it is downloading something. Okay, so your internet must be connected. That is also another hidden requirement for Android Studio. Your internet must be connected so that it can download all the necessary files, necessary modules whenever you are creating a project. So all the build process are automated, so you don't have to do anything manually. So because of this advantage, we are using Gradle as our build configuration files. They help us to automate all these processes. Okay, on this project view, if you click on this Android, you can see there are different perspectives of our project view. So you can use packages to see what are the packages are there in the Android project. If you are clicking project files, it will list all the files in the project source files. So there are different perspectives, out of which we generally use Android perspective because it only shows us those files which are necessary for editing purpose or for creating our application. So we use only this particular file. Okay. It will take a few moments more. To complete. Okay, done. Gradle sync now started. So all the files are now downloaded, necessary files are downloaded, and the sync process is starting. The files are created, indexing is done. Now you can see there are all the files are structured as this one. Okay, as I said, there are few components of your Android application: manifest, then resources, which are listed under res folder. Okay, resources. Then your components are stored under this Java. Resources like drawable, which are being drawn on the mobile screen. That means all the images we use as icons or maybe some background image, those we can put under this drawable folder. Layout is basically the UI, user interface, through which user interacts with your application. MipMap is also another folder which stores different icons, but basically these are the launcher icons which we use. Then values is another folder which stores all the constant values. Like here you can see there is a colors.xml, there is a strings.xml, and themes are there. So these are stored under resources folder. Then Gradle scripts, these are basically the build scripts which consist of our project structure, project's configuration files. Under this Java, you get to see 3 subfolders. 2 are test folders. That means we can write test cases for our application and store it under these folders, which will not be exported into the final APK or application package file. Under manifest, there is this Android manifest.xml file. Its structure is like this: simple XML file, but under application, you can see there are certain configurations, like which icon it will show. This icon attribute specifies that this particular icon, IC launcher, this particular icon will be shown when the application is installed on the Android device. Label, it is the text which we see under our application's icon in the menu. So this is the label. Then rounded icon, if you are using round icon theme, then this particular icon will be shown. Then what theme we are using, and under that this is our initial or starting activity that is listed. Okay, so all the configurations are stored here. Whatever components we are using, all of them are stored under this section. Now coming to the layout file, if you click on this XML file, which is a layout file for your application, the initial screen will be like this. You can now modify it. There is an initial component, this hello world. If you click on this, the right side, you can see the different attributes that are applied to this particular element. On the left, there is a palette from where you can drag and drop elements to this particular screen. And there is this component tree. This is known as component tree. Whatever elements you arrange in your UI, they all will be listed over here. So let me just create a simple UI. So I will just remove one constraint because this constraint layout we are using, constraint layout basically holds the view at a particular position on the screen. So we constrain it using some chain lock system. Like here, if I select this one, you can see this view is constrained to the boundary using these locking mechanisms. Okay, it is highlighting like this. Okay, now we can disable one of the constraint out of here, so using this particular button, or we can in fact remove using this button also, clear all constraints, so it will remove all the constraints. So I have removed it. Now this view has come to the top portion of the UI. I need it a little bit down, so I will make it some margin. So this is the margin from the top. So you can edit it from here. Okay, so as you edit here, it will be very easier for you to edit using this designer view. Otherwise, there is another option. You can edit every attribute using this code view, which will show you the XML code, and you need to manually edit it. Like this is showing hello world, so I can write here instead of hello world, like webinar on Android. Okay, now the text is changing, so you can manually edit the attribute fields also, but it is easier for us if we use this design view. Now for further attributes, let's suppose it's height, width, we can change the color. Okay, further down there is an attribute text. Yes, this one. So you can change the text over here. Okay, you can edit this text that I have manually typed over there. It has come here, so you can change it from here. Then if you want to make the text all capital, then you can just enable this one, which is false. You can make it checked so that all text will be shown as capital. You can change the text color, okay, as per your choice from this palette. There is a palette over here available, so you can choose this particular palette so that your color of the text will be changed. Okay, okay. Now we will increase the font size a little bit, which is here, the text size attribute. It is 14 screen pixel, so you will increase it, let's suppose 18, so it will a little bit bigger. Now let me add one item. Let's suppose I am adding a text over here. So this is known as edit text, because we can edit the whatever text inside this edit text, so it is known as edit text. Then these circular buttons are known as constraint points. We can click, drag and drop to the boundary in order to constrain them, or in respect to each other. Okay, to other elements also we can constrain it. Okay, after constraining, we can change the different attribute for this particular element. Okay, like text is there, so what it will do, it will initially show some text which can be edited by the user directly, or else you can remove it. Instead of text, you can use another attribute known as hint, which will show you the grade text, some grade text. Whenever user is trying to input something, user taps on this item, this text will be removed. So let's say I am typing enter your name, or sorry, name. Okay, so now you can see this grade text as enter your name. Okay, now I will put some margin from above so that it will be clearly distinguished below this one, and I will make it to match to the boundary. The width should be matched to the boundary. I can do it from here. I can click on it. So it will be changing its value like this one. So this is known as wrap content. The width will be wrapped around the text. So it will have a size of minimal size. Then whenever user is entering something, the size will dynamically grow. But this does not provide a desirous result. Then you can fix the width like this one. Now you can see the width is fixed at 210, or else you can choose, click over here again, which is known as match parent, okay, or match constraint over here. So the width will be match the constraint of this parent, whoever is parent. Who is the parent? The constraint layout is the parent. Okay. Now we can put some margin from left and right so that it will look prominently or good for us. Okay. So there are many options for this edit text. You can find over here many type of input type, like plain text is there, password is there, email is there. If you are typing email, then you can choose this email type and so on. Okay. And there are many buttons also available. Let's take a button over here. Just click on it, drag it, drop it over here. So button is already placed. Now similar as I did with the previous one, I can put some constraint to this element towards right or towards left or below it. Okay. And I can put some margin from top so that it will be a little bit prominent. Or if I want to align it towards the right of the screen, I can leave or I can remove the left constraint so that it will be constrained or it will be aligned to the right of the screen. I can put some margin to it. Okay, so that it will be visible like this. So let's consider this as our basic UI, as the time has a limit, so we cannot create a proper view. So let's consider this as our view. Now next thing is that we are designing everything in XML. How we are going to access it from our Java code? For that, actually Android manages a file that is known as r.java, which is automatically generated. As we place different components over the layout, XML layout, it automatically adds one entry or adds one reference to this particular XML element in that r.java file. Okay, it is automatically generated. From that r.java file or from that reference file, we can reference each individual component from our code. Let's see how we do that. Basically, we add IDs to particular items which we choose. Like if you click over here, you can see the top element is an ID, automatically given the ID as edit text person name. So I am not going to change it. You can change it if you want. Similarly, for this button also, the ID is provided as button or button. So it will be referenced in the r.java file. Now let's move on to our main activity.java file. So this is our main activity.java file, which inherits the app compat activity class, which is the parent class, which is known as an activity class. So it inherits all the properties of this particular parent class, so that this class file becomes the activity file or activity class file. Now by default, it is overriding or using a method. It is already created there on create. On create means it will create all the elements. That means it will associate everything to the layout. How? Using this set content view method. There is a method here, set content view, and you can see the reference is as r.layout.activity main. That means we have resource in resource folder. From resource folder, we have layout folder. Within layout folder, we have this file activity_main. We can see the path here also. Resource folder, within layout folder. Within layout folder, we have activity_main. So it is referencing from there. Now, whenever this function is executing, it will automatically show you this particular layout. Okay. Now, how to reference other elements that are we have just added to our screen. So for that, we will create an object over here. So we have added an edit text object. So we'll use edit text, and we'll give it an object name, like let's suppose edit text. Okay. Then here we will initialize this object using the reference of that XML view. How? We can use a function known as find view by ID. Inside this, we'll write r.id, because resource, within resource and within layout, we have some ID added, and that ID we are referencing over here. Find view by ID and edit text person name. Okay, so this ID we have used. Okay, done. So referencing is done. Now how to extract the value or extract the data, or how to extract the value and display to the user what user has input. Okay, for that we need to write a event code for click, for when user clicks on that button. So for that we will use one way, that is we'll create a method over here, event method, public void on, let's say click. Click is the function name. Okay. Now the argument for this click event must be view type. Okay, view object type. We write view. Okay. Now it is showing me in red. That means I don't have imported this class name. So I will import it. So import is done. Now within this function, I can write our event code. Okay, like I will extract the text first using a string. Let's say person name is equals to. So our edit text object is edit text dot get text dot to string. So it will extract the text and in an object, then it will convert it into a string and store it within this particular string variable. Okay. Now we want to display it. For displaying, Android provides us a method, a class that is known as toast, which is used for showing or displaying a small pop-up window where whatever message we want to display, we can show it, we can display it. So how to configure it? We write toast dot make text. Within that, there are 3 arguments must be provided. First one is context, which we write get application context we can write, or we can put it this. Okay. Then second argument is the text, which I will use the extracted text from here, person name. Third argument is the duration. The value can be either 0 or 1. Okay, 0 for small time, 1 for larger time. Okay, we can directly put the duration as value, or else there are constants defined inside this toast class. Okay, length long and length short. We can use any of them as per our requirement. Then finally, dot show method in order to display this value. Now our function is ready. We have referenced our object. Now let's go back to our XML view. Now we need to add this particular function to our button. Okay, otherwise it will not execute. So there is an attribute of button as on click. So let me just find out quickly. Yeah, here on click, there is a down arrow button. When you click, you can see within the main activity, there is this click function. Now the click event is applied to this particular button. Okay, now how to run it? So for running our code, just a moment, the toolbox is hidden. So for running our code, we can use this button. Okay, I have previously created, I could not show you how to create the emulator. Anyways, you can find out in help files, or you can browse and You can Google it how to create an emulator. You will get the help. When you click on this run button, it will build the application and run on this emulator screen. Okay. So Shubham was asking, sir, do we need to enable the virtualization in BIOS when running the app in physical device? No, you don't need to enable a virtualization in BIOS when running your app in physical device. Okay. It will be needed by this virtual device only, emulator. Whenever you are using emulator, you will need virtualization enabled, otherwise your system will be slowed down. So that is the answer for that question. But for using physical device to test your application, you don't need any virtualization. But yes, but enabling the virtualization will affect your system. Your system will run a little bit faster. I have seen, that is my personal experience. If you enable virtualization, okay. So this is the process of development. More UI you can create as per your application's requirement. You can put all the components on the screen. You can then modify the Java code to handle all the interactions. You can put all your logic inside it, and your application will be ready. So this is the process of developing application in Android using Java. Similar process is used using Kotlin also. But if you are learning, or if you are at a learner stage, then it is always recommended that you use Java to learn, because Java is easier to capture. Then once you are acquainted with Java, then it will be easier for you to switch to Kotlin. Okay. So that's it. We are waiting for running the application on this emulator. So meanwhile, if anyone of you have any kind of doubt, you can unmute and ask me. Okay, the process is a little bit slower in my system. Anyone having any kind of doubt? Okay, now Gradle invocation is finished. Okay, it is installing on this virtual device now, the text and all. Okay, successfully installed. It should run in any moment. It should start. Yes. So see, our application is now running on my emulator. Now I can type in. If you click on this edit text, the virtual keyboard will pop up. You can type it from here, or if you are using a virtual device, you can type using your physical keyboard also, system's keyboard. So I am typing my name. Let's suppose my name. Okay, correct. Okay, now I'll minimize it and I'll click on this button. Now see, my name is displayed over here. So this is the process through which we interact with different components on the XML layout through the backend process. So that's it for today's webinar. Maybe in any subsequent webinar, I will show you more. Okay, code, ma'am, can we share with the participants the source code somehow?
Hello, sir, if you want to share the source code, then you can share with me. I'll share with the participant.
Okay, sure. I will do that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful session. We learn many theory about the Android and how great practical too. I know that this session is means there is a very less amount of time we have. Again, I think that this will be converted into a workshop too, so that you can elaborate the practical session more. So we are obviously planning for that too. Thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful sessions. Thank you, Dr. Sukant Kishore Bisoi, sir, HOD CSC. Thank you to Dr. Madhushmita Sahu, madam, HOD CSIT, and yes, of course, our chief guest, Mukesh, sir, and all the participants to join the session. Kindly fill the feedback form that is in the chat box. So it will generate the certificate of yours. Kindly just fill that. And if there is a technical glitch or anything, you please get back to us in the CSI Gmail. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
So, sir, if you share the source code, I will be share it with the participant too.
Yes, ma'am. I will share the source code with you. Yeah.
Ma'am,
Yes, sir. Yes.
ma'am, I didn't receive the link, ma'am.
Okay. I'll share again. No issue. Gokul, please check. Will you receive that link?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Request all of you to fill the form. Okay, I will also share the recording with the participant too. So there is no issue because there are many steps in the practical session. So you can do it better way. So I'll share the source code and the recording. So please give me 1 day time for that. Thank you so much. And please share your view in the suggestion section of feedback that what next webinar we will be conducted. What are the topic you want to? So please share that. Your feedback will be valuable. The feedback link will be closed by 4:50. So before that, please all of you fill the feedback form. So it will generate it off your certification. And please stay tuned with us. We will have this after the series 2, series 3 also. So kindly get connected with us. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your valuable feedback and uh, suggestions that you are sharing with us currently. Thank you. Yes, of course, we will giving you the recorded sessions. So it will take 1 day time. So by Monday, you will get all the recorded session and everything. For certificate, I think it will be generated right now only. We are about to close the meeting. If anyone not getting feedback link or anything, you can get back to us. Otherwise, we are just closing the session. Yes, of course, we will share all the documents, recording, everything about the webinar by Monday. So please have patience for Monday. And recordings also will be shared. So
Ma'am, when will you give a certificate, ma'am?
yes,
Ma'am, when will you give a certificate, ma'am?
certificate. Are you asking for certificate?
Yes, ma'am.
It will be generated after filling the feedback form. You just fill the feedback form, it will be generated.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, those who are disconnected, this is the again I'm sending the feedback form. Please. So there is only 5 minutes time. After that, the feedback form will be disabled. So please fill the feedback form. If any error or anything in the in your certificate, please get back to us. We will help you definitely on that account.